And welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the San Benito County Planning Commission. Today is March 16th, 2022. It is now 6 p.m. and I call the meeting to order. Could we please have the notice of temporary procedures read?
The San Benito County Planning Commission welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. When addressing the commission via Zoom, phone, or in the chambers, please state your name and county in which you reside for the record. Please address the commission as a whole through the chair. If participating on Zoom, select the Participations tab and click Raise Hand icon. If you are using a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. If participating in person in the chamber, please complete a speaker card identifying the item on which you wish to speak and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. Speaker cards are available on the table at the entrance.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Pack, could you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. A roll call, please.
Commissioner Devin Pack, District 5.
Commissioner Richard Way, District 2.
Commissioner Robert Rodriguez, District 1.
Commissioner Robert Scagliotti, District 3.
And Commissioner Robert Gibson, District 4. All present and accounted for. Department announcements.
My only announcement is to say thank you for all those that stepped in tonight to staff tonight's meeting.
Yes, thank you very much. Public comment. This is for any items in the purview of the Planning Commission that are not on this evening's agenda. Are there any public comment in the chambers? Seeing none, are there any public comments via Zoom?
There are none.
Thank you. Consent agenda. We have the acknowledgement of public hearing, acknowledgement and certificate of posting, and the draft meeting minutes from February 16th. Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes? None. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Also move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None. Carries 5-0. Thank you. Regular agenda, item number 5, 2014 to 2023 Housing Element Annual Progress Report for 2021.
Hi, good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners. I'm really excited to be here tonight and give you a little update on our Housing Element Annual Progress Report. And I did add in a few additional items on affordable housing review and where different things stand. Ariel Goodspeed. So just an overview, what is a housing element? Well, it's one of the components of a general plan. It's updated more regularly than a general plan is, every 8 years compared to 20. It provides analysis of the community's housing needs for all income levels. It identifies zones, sites that can share regional housing needs for those income levels. It develops strategies to provide those housing needs. It also addresses RHNA, which is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, which is the state's projected housing needs to accommodate various income categories by jurisdiction. And it's approved by the State Housing and Community Development. Our current housing element goes from 2015 to 2023. It identifies an analysis of existing projected housing needs, statements of goals and policies, financial resources, preservation, improvements, and development of housing. And our 2021 housing element reviewed and approved by OPR and HCD, that's what's being presented tonight. And it focuses on 5 main goals. So the 5 main goals are availability of housing, development of housing, maintenance of housing, equal housing opportunity, and energy conservation. The annual housing element progress report, basically each jurisdiction is required to complete one. It demonstrates the project applications, completed building permits, annexation, charges of public land, and then it has to be submitted to the State Governor's Office of Planning and Research in HCD by the 1st of each year. This is a snapshot of what we did last year and what we've done since 2015. So last year we had 12 new units in very low and low. That was part of the Riverview 2 affordable housing project. There are 12 more that will show up in the 2022 annual progress report. We didn't have any moderate homes built last year, but we did have 108 above moderate homes. So overall, on the right, the total remaining, that is, so what RENA's allocated for the very low is 198 for very low, and what units we've built to date or have to date are 7, so we still need 191. Again, for low, we have 112, and then for moderate, we have 161. So on the very low to moderate, we haven't progressed very far in building those units. On our above moderate, we actually have the opposite. We've built 880 units, where we only need 355. So I think we're at like 107%, of what we needed. So our total RENA allocation is 837 units split up between the different income categories. So just housing element plans and timeline for the next housing element that will be for 2023 to 2031. We have approved grants, ready to go to fund making our next housing element, putting together next housing element. And basically we have to have that in place and reviewed and approved prior to the end of our current housing element, so by the end of next year. COG has received those RENA numbers. Currently it's 5,005 units to be split up between the 3 jurisdictions, which is San Benito County Unincorporated, City of Hollister, and City of San Juan Bautista. COG is to develop a methodology and assist in allocation for our county's jurisdiction, and that's currently where it's at. They still need to have the COG board approve a methodology that then gets sent to AMBAG in the state. Once we do have our allocation, then we will begin working on our next housing element. So some of the inclusionary housing implementation program, inclusionary housing basically refers to municipal county planning ordinances that require a given share of new construction to be affordable by people with low to moderate incomes. So it's a type of ordinance to assist in meeting regional goals and housing needs. We had a recent ordinance in 2016 and amendments were approved in December of 2020. The remaining work is the feasibility study, which has been completed, the in lieu analysis to determine the fee, which has been completed. We're working on bringing it to the board probably the end of April to beginning of May for deliberation. Our past approved developments, inclusionary ordinance was not in effect at the time of approval and paid a minimal fee, so our current approved developments will follow our new ordinance that was adopted in December of 2020. One of the other tools for the implementation program is the Housing Advisory Committee. It's consisted of 2 board members, 2 planning commissioners, which we had requested earlier this year, and then 3 members of the public, 1 for affordable housing, 1 for builder developer, and 1 for financial. I did want to announce that we are bringing those, we have a member for affordable housing and the builder development, and we're bringing those representatives for the board to hopefully appoint. We're still looking for someone for that financial. I know it's been posted, so if you know anyone that is interested in serving on our Housing Advisory Committee and they have some sort of financial background, please reach out to me, and I can get them the application. So the purpose of this is basically to advise the Board of Supervisors on matters relating to the housing element in the general plan and the inclusionary housing ordinance to evaluate proposals for in lieu fees. Other programs that we're working on to achieve affordable housing. So as part of our zoning code update, which you're familiar with, at our last planning commission meeting brought our pre-approved 6 ADU and JADU site plans. That will be brought to the board this year as well. And the hope is that it'll decrease expense to homeowners and provide ease and access. There's state programs, density bonus grant programs, and then as discussed previously, updating our housing element. So my staff recommendation is recommend to that you push this to the board, who will then receive and adopt the annual housing element progress report and submit it to State Housing and Community Development, State Office of Planning and Research. Any questions? I also did bring, I know it was hard to read that Excel sheet PDF, but I have it here and I can pull it up if you had any particular questions on that. So this Excel is basically what the state requires us to fill out. The table I presented earlier is kind of like the main table that really shows us where we're at on the different income levels and what we've built. But I have this here too if you'd like me to go over anything from the packet.
Are there any questions, comments, concerns from the commissioners?
I wanted to know, at the present time, in terms of our development impact fee schedules, is there anything like a linkage fee or any part of the fees that are calculated with regards to supporting affordable housing development?
So the in lieu fee that I was mentioning earlier, when a development comes through, if they're required to do 15%, but let's say that doesn't equal out to a full unit, that in lieu fee would then be what they'd be required to pay that then goes into a fund. And so currently we don't have an adopted in lieu fee, and so previous developments that went through, if the other option is if they were to pay for all of their inclusionary housing by fee, the in lieu fee would also. So what's happened previously is without that in lieu fee in there, that fee has been negotiated between developers and what was approved and brought to the board. So now when the in lieu fee is brought and adopted by the board, we'll have set fees on what's required for any developer to pay.
Okay. So that's
Okay.
waiting.
Are there any other questions? No. I'll just comment that the RENA numbers, we are not alone. Most jurisdictions in the state are nowhere near what the state wants all of us to build, just for the commissioners and the public. Okay. Thank you. Oh, is there any public comment?
If you wish to make a comment in the chambers, please provide a speaker card. On Zoom, please press *9 or the raise your hand icon. There are none.
No public comment. Okay. Is there a motion on the table? Okay, there's a motion to send the 2014-2023 Housing Element Annual Progress Report to the Board of Supervisors. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all. Public hearing, item number 6, PLN 220003, use permit. Owner Anthony J. and Susan Botello, applicant John Merritt, Horizon Tower LLC.
Good evening, Michael Kelly, and I'm here to present this use permit at 10 Flint Road, wireless facility. There we are. This is the second time this has been before the Planning Commission. The prior permit was considered in 2020, but for non-action it expired, so it's back here. It's the property here at 10 Flint Road, at the northwest corner of Route 156 and Flint Road, on a 10-acre property. This project is a monopole, wireless telecommunications monopole, 95 feet in height with 4 levels. The top level would be how it would start off, omnidirectional antennas for communication involving truck transportation. And the next 3 levels would be 12 antenna units per level for wireless carriers like typical on other poles. Also a microwave dish on a 5th level below, plus lease area on the ground with equipment that would serve this facility. As I said, the antennas that would be there at first would be for truck transportation, as the service is called FleetNet, and it describes its business as truck fleet maintenance, repair, and towing. And as I mentioned, this was reviewed before 2018 submittal, 2020 hearing before the Planning Commission, but there was not activity to progress it toward actually getting built, and under this code section shown here, it expires. I might also mention that after the Planning Commission approved this, there was an appeal to the board by neighbors, and the Board of Supervisors at the time considered the appeal, the concerns on aesthetics and human health and property value, and a belief that the signal quality was sufficient enough. The board at the time decided that wasn't with enough merit to approve the appeal, so the board denied the appeal and upheld the decision. The property owner did not participate in that vote. He was a supervisor at the time. He recused himself. Here we have the site plan, and there you see the facility near Flint Road, 122 feet from Flint Road, and then 156 to the south, with the dwelling here and the agricultural buildings in between here. Here's a closer view with the facility, the dwelling, the road intersection, and the other buildings. And an elevation here with, again, 95 feet. The antennas for the truck communication, and then wireless carriers and microwave dish here and lease area for the ground equipment. This is the view without the tower, and this is it with the tower. Another angle without, and here it is with. This is just a pole. It's not a stealth facility, and staff believes that it's adequate for this location with the functional appearance of the buildings as they are, and a functional appearance to the tower as well. Each tower, each new facility is expected to be considered in the context of what's already available. Does it fill a gap? In this case, the nearest towers are 2.5 miles away to the northeast, and one to the west 3.5 miles away. This one has more or less a clear line of sight, but it is distant from this area. And this is possibly a bit constrained by the terrain. There is the gap between the two valleys, but there is terrain that can cause issues there. So this is proposed to be in the midpoint there. The general plan encourages facilitating wireless facilities. The economic development element makes it a priority to develop these for the public. The public facilities and services element has this goal to facilitate the expansion of telecommunications, which would include this facility, a policy to have that technology available, a policy here to require co-location, which this would accommodate, and a policy to encourage the availability of broadband service in rural areas, which this would allow. The land use element also points to accommodating agricultural support uses, of which this is one. This would serve the truck transportation that in large part in this area serves agriculture. And in addition to that, the other services that could co-locate here also have potential to help out agriculture with the communications capacities. Zoning allows this as a conditional use, and then we also have the chapter on wireless facilities that sets expectations for what is supposed to be in these facilities, including addressing visual impacts. And with regard to this, which more or less expects the facilities to fit into their settings, we can say that, as I mentioned, the tower has a functional appearance in a setting of buildings that themselves have a functional appearance, and there's a condition that expects that this be painted a non-reflective finish with a color that blends into that spot. Also, these facilities are expected to be at least 500 feet from residential areas, as the code puts it. This is at least 500 feet from residences, except for the one on site. And it is acceptable, it's been found generally acceptable at the Planning Commission to have that be the case, provided that the owner has a deed restriction on the property. And I'm going to suggest that this be added as a condition of approval beyond what's found in the packet, something I should have included before but didn't. This has to be considered in regard to CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, which generally treats this kind of facility as being a utility extension that is something specifically listed in this exemption. So this is exempt from the detailed environmental review. It would not be exempt if it were by a designated scenic highway, but this is not that. We can also point out the fact that there is existing construction on site, that this is distant from a similar tower by 2.5 miles, and case law exists that supports using this exemption for this purpose. As I mentioned, the resolution that I would recommend adopting has this additional condition. In fact, this was in the prior one, and but I missed it. So it's in this recommendation that I'm going to give, that the deed restriction be recorded to state that the property owner is aware of any potential issues of having a residence and the tower be less than 500 feet from each other. So this recommendation is for the Commission to make the findings found in the resolution and to adopt the resolution to approve this permit subject to the conditions of approval, including the additional condition as as stated here. I can answer questions if you have questions.
Any comments from the commissioners? Questions? Commissioner Pack?
Okay. The deed restriction would basically grandfather in the existing residents, but the development of this tower would probably restrict future residential subdevelopment, or?
It's actually, it limits where the tower can be proposed. Not so much when someone else would come in with an idea for a residence, but where the tower can be proposed in existing conditions.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner Pack? Commissioner Way? Commissioner Rodriguez?
I had a question, because it says the tower's gonna be a blending color, but it just looks white and just seems like it just stands out with all the trees around it.
Yeah.
So that's, I have a concern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, painting it a color that at least isn't standing out too much. That is what's proposed. The commission can suggest, in its opinion, what might be another color to choose
Okay.
or another appearance.
Commissioner Scagliotti?
Yes, I'd like to ask why you don't make it look like a water tank, or maybe even a bell tower, since in San Juan Valley, doll it up a little bit. Let's not just have this eyesore right on Highway 156. I don't care if it is agricultural, rural, and the buildings don't look very nice around it. At least try and make that look nice. I don't like the looks of this, the aesthetics of this tower.
Are there possibilities to change the look of the tower?
At the moment, all that's proposed is the one design that's here.
Okay, so we will, any other comments or questions? Then we'll go to public comment. Oop, one more from
Yeah.
Commissioner Pack.
So I see, there's the commercial applications. Have we gotten any feedback from county emergency services as far as emergency broadcast capacities, or is there any provision for that in terms of the infrastructure that's going up on this?
I don't have feedback from an office like that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there is perhaps some other, I don't know, law beyond this jurisdiction, I don't know, federal.
So it's just
Think that-
purely commercial cellular and microwave transmitters. There's no emergency transponders on this.
Well, it's not proposed as part of this. It would be communication capacity
Okay.
that I imagine could be used for emergency purposes. But it doesn't specifically propose like one level of equipment dedicated to that purpose.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to public comment. Is there any public comment in the chambers?
The applicant is also here.
Oh. Okay, is the applicant wishing to speak? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Michael, and good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. My name is John Merritt with Horizon Tower. Thank you for hearing this once again, and I do feel you owed an explanation as to why we're asking you to reconsider the project. We did get it approved unanimously 2 years ago. Then, of course, COVID hit and other business factors just indicated we weren't able to get enough other tenants on the structure to make it commercially feasible. Now that wireless continues to develop with 5G and many other technologies, that appears to be a much more positive environment. Regrettably, in the meantime, as Michael pointed out, the permit did expire, I think, 1 year. Is that correct? So we're proposing no changes to the original configuration. And I would like to address Commissioner Scagliotti's question, which is really an excellent one. We call disguised structures, for lack of a better word, we call them stealth. You've seen them, pine trees, palm trees. I think we even did a rock up at Pebble Beach with the antennas in it. We did have, back in 2019, 2020, we had extensive discussions with planning with Michael and his colleagues. What should it look like? And given that we wanted to accommodate as many carriers as possible, we decided that water tank wasn't feasible because the water tank, to accommodate the antennas, which you saw at various vertical levels, the water tank would have to be almost 40, 50 feet long and just really look absurd. And frankly, create a structural challenge because of the wind load on a water tank that big. I think we've all seen water tanks, and typically they're on top of a lattice type structure. We even looked facetiously at, a tall asparagus spear or something like that, not seriously. But it just turned out to accommodate the potential carriers, and we strongly encourage co-location. We don't want these, every mile on the highway any more than you do. To encourage the potential for co-location for those 4 carriers, we come up with the idea that it just is not a stealth structure. Sometimes for a single carrier, we've done church crosses, other things like that. But for this particular application, just does not appear to be an application that would stealth it anymore. Considering that, we did move it back from the highway as much as we could possibly, so that it's back in the corner of the property. The color actually will be kind of a matte gray. In fact, almost really what your walls are here. And we would be glad to, as a condition of approval, write in any particular color with matte gray. Certainly not white. Would not be painted white in any case. It would be the natural steel color that's you've seen on most poles. So, with that, I welcome any other questions that anyone may have.
Okay.
Commissioners?
Any questions for the applicant?
So essentially, as far as stealth, it is possible to consider a condition a repainting or a recoloration, but it's not really able to alter the shape of the structure, is what you're saying, as far as stealth and aesthetic options.
Certainly, if I understood your question correctly, Commissioner Pack, was it regarding painting, changing the color of the structure? Is that right, sir?
That is something we can consider, or that is something that would be possible?
Yes, that's a standard condition of approval, that it be painted a matte gray, or actually produced by our vendor as a matte gray naturally, built into the steel. And of course, that would further weather. I think the intention that we see with most jurisdictions is to not have any reflectivity. And that really is something we want to accomplish as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments?
I would just add one, if I might, please. The original tenant intended was a company called FleetNet, which, as Michael pointed out, is a commercial service monitoring company. They use GPS and other relays to monitor their vehicles nationwide, as the map showed. But with all of the housing construction, in fact, we're in discussion with San Juan Oaks. They've actually requested a cell site in the area, and we went down and drove that area today. With those 1,100 new homes proposed, and of course the widening of Route 156 that, as you know, is proposed, we feel it's appropriate to put the facility there, and it will provide an opportunity for Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, or any other carrier that would like to co-locate. It will already be there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment via Zoom?
If you wish to make a comment, press star 9 on the raise your hand icon. There are none.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed. Is there any further discussion about the stealth tower? Any?
Possibly attach conditions for acceleration, Commissioner Saluri, what are your thoughts on that?
It just, to me, it just sticks out as a sore thumb. We're trying to make our county, trying to upgrade our county, make it look aesthetic where we can, and this here just kind of sticks out to me as a sore thumb. It just doesn't, I don't see why they can't put something on it that would help make it stealthy. I mean, you don't have to do something fancy, but something, you must be able to do something to it.
Like the arrow fan? The aerofan type. There's no way to disguise it a little?
We have done windmills, not the big commercial windmills that you see these days, but the old-fashioned type of windmills with a fan. And yes, that is a possibility that we could include a fan on top. You would still have the antennas protruding as they are as pictured in the photo simulations. But if that was your wish, we could certainly look at a design with some sort of fan to make it look a little more like a windmill.
I think
Let
there's a consensus for that.
me ask you a question. I
Go
do work at a local dairy up at Pacheco Pass, and they have it built looking exactly like a windmill. It's pyramided just like a windmill. You have to have this as just a single pole tower. You can't build it up like on 3 sides or 4 sides and make it look like a true windmill.
We could certainly construct it as a lattice tower, yes, sir. However, in our opinion, and I think there was consensus with planning back in 2020 when we discussed that, I believe the consensus was that a lattice tower, 3-sided lattice tower, would be actually more obtrusive than the single monopole.
Okay.
Is there a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion we approve with, I guess, the aesthetics we spoke about.
Changing the aesthetics to a
Yeah.
windmill top?
Yeah, to a windmill top, and maybe look at another option on possible colors.
Okay.
Possibly, I know matte gray is nice,
Is
but
there a consensus for a windmill top? Okay, okay.
Wouldn't like that.
And then also to add the deed restriction?
I guess to that
Condition?
deed restriction, yes.
Okay. Michael has,
Well, the applicant brought up that the windmill type would extend the height, if that is a concern too.
it's fine, right? How many feet? Other,
15 to 20 feet.
is that acceptable? Okay, so we have a motion to change the aesthetics to a tower with a windmill that will increase the height, perhaps up to 20 feet. And we would like to add the condition regarding the deed restriction language. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Pack seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all. Board announcements. Does anybody have anything to announce? No. I have a question for Joel. As the chairman, do I have to have an action item to appoint members to an ad hoc committee that was in existence last year and has carried over? Or do they just continue?
There are planning commission rules of procedure. I don't have them committed to memory. We'd have to consult that.
Okay.
To answer that question.
Okay. Thank you.
It may not be addressed at all.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Okay. Commissioner Pack makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Commissioner Rodriguez seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all very much.